They say that fear is a powerful stimulant. And fear comes in many forms. Personally, I believe that seeing a spider the size of Canada coming charging at you is a good example of why we should all wear brown pants. Checking out the classic Bob base spots, we discover a random base. We knock on the door as the polite custodians that we are. However, seeing as no one decided to answer my Adderall-fueled door knocking, I feel like it is my duty to make sure that they aren't using the location as a meth lab. So we enter the establishment with our spare key. Now, if you haven't paid attention to local television lately, you might have missed the amount of insane meth head traps that exist in this horrifying world we live in. Would you look at that, heavy turrets and stone foundations? This is most certainly a meth lab. To avoid future problems, we need to promptly relocate these savages. So we throw out Mr. Sokolot, but what do you know, your friend Happy has apparently not figured out in his 5,000 hours of playing this game that a big object does not fit in a small hole, thus concluding that my future employment as an engineer has been reduced drastically. This is one of those moments where I sometimes find myself lying down with my back on the floor counting to 10. Accepting my fate, I figured I should go and at least get Doug Jones from the upload. Wildcard, however, had a different idea and decided that I had used all my Doug Jones coupons for this week. Totally keeping it frosty in the situation, I decide to take out my inner anger on Judy the Triceratops. After watching Judy take pegging to the face from used needles and toilet paper rolls, I come to the conclusion that the meth heads have more ammunition than an American high school and choose to adapt to another method. Let's also ignore the fact that I don't take the time to pump in the additional 23 levels that Judy is sitting on. We are going to recreate the Hindenburg disaster, but my never-ending optimism will promptly change the scenario from a disaster to a Hindenburg success. So we take a quick look at the gear, and like any professional, I make sure that my weakest equipment is the chest piece, because snorting glue as a substitute for lunch is my version of self-care. Have you noticed how I never have any of the cryopod dinosaurs leveled? Believe it or not, this is not a good method of playing the game. I know you come here to learn from my infinite flawless wisdom. Honestly, I feel like that mistake is more on you than me. Anyway, I crank up my Tom Petty free-falling music and barrel roll my face right into the meth head death wall. It was a success, and I swear none of you lunatics believed I was going to make it. Better turn off the generator, in case one of the turrets was just pretending to be dead. My thought process is flawless. Looks like our meth head friends are living way more lavish than I expected, and they even have a pet Barney. Of course, most likely only being fed with homegrown products, the poor creature has stuck his head through the wall. Their botanical skills are, however, glorious, and I refuse to take that away from these dazzling kids. As I suffer from my split personality of wanting to see what's in the next room and trying to not experience a hobo trap, I push forward exploring the base. For the most part, it seems like they have organizational skills, and I'm starting to smell a conspiracy about these guys actually being meth heads. Like, who in their right mind actually lines up dinosaurs? That's right, I hope some of you watching this video take that personally. It's time to make Mr. Sokolot useful and walk this thick beautiful creature right past the remaining heavy turrets in an attempt to find the last generator. This base was basically designed to be rated catwalk style, and believe it or not, this plan works out perfectly, which, following our recent track record, is a sparkling freaking miracle. Time for looting, which also means speeding up. Honestly, do you guys enjoy watching looting? I guess it's kind of the same hook they get kids into when they do box opening videos, cheeky bastards. So while we are here, we take the opportunity to fix our flak gear, because your boy most certainly does not have the resources to do that in his shantytown looking base. These little gas guzzlers, however, have left their vaults unpin-coded as any meth head would, so we got that going for us. We take the opportunity to make some C4, seeing as being prepared for a raid is somewhat of an allergy of mine, and I am terrified of being an efficient human being. I bet they have hobo fist fights in here. Actually, I'm super jealous. I want to have my own hobo fighter. I would name that lovable little fella Billy, and thanks to his masturbation addiction, his arms would look like Popeye the Sailor. I would wager cryopods on the fighter, and winner takes all. Man, this idea is fantastic. Would you look at that, a bunch of speedy Kit Kats. Mostly they were babies, but at least some of them seem to be full size. Big profits. As I innocently take a look at the hoard of pills they have stashed up in this fridge, I get the feeling I'm not alone anymore. And little did I know, I found crack pipe wielding Buffy the Vampire Slayer calmly standing behind my back, smelling my neck. So like any reasonable man, I freak out and quickly give her the old Irish car bomb treatment. Stealthy little minx. Knowing that I've been discovered, I show my true colors and cryopod queen thickness here so that I can at least get out with some profit before she decides that the brain-damaged Barney the dinosaur she has downstairs gets used for something else that isn't licking paint. After a quick stashing of the loot, I head back in the hopes to show Buffy my newly discovered birth certificate as a form of icebreaker to open communication. Promptly, however, I now notice that the birth certificate is in fact just an apology letter from the condom factory, which leads me to think that someone owes me an explanation. Struggling with an identity crisis, we take out our aggression on wooden ramps in the hopes that they are in fact hiding something interesting. It looks like nothing spectacular, but in comes Buffy waving a white flag. She seems to want to end her meth addiction and asks me to sign her petition papers for rehab. Suffering for PTSD, however, I opt for the more reasonable decision and decide to send her to the dentist. Furthermore, on second thought, the dentist will most likely require some sort of financial stability, and seeing as we are here to rob her blind, it's best we opt for the Chris Brown and Rihanna treatment instead. Now, I know that the common saying is snitches get stitches, but personally it feels like it's just better not to have any breathing witnesses around, so obviously mass genocide is the only option. We use the weakest Kit Kat from Buffy's collection and try to hurt the dinosaurs at the maximum distance because my ability to think logically died a long time ago. Knowing full well that Buffy's beds are gone and she's now probably spawned in at least 2 time zones away, I think we can take our time and declare this more or less a victory. All in all, it went quite nicely. The only thing we lost was one suicidal pterodactyl, but honestly I overheard him calling the suicide hotline in Iraq and they seemed to have gotten all excited about it and was wondering if he knew how to fly a plane, so who knows what was going on in his head. So after struggling with the murders for far too long, it's time to just go home and get our own Barney the dinosaur in an attempt to speed this fun run up. Before that, however, we will try and make sure that there is positively no chance that Buffy gets the opportunity to set up more functional hobo traps. By the amount of ammunition these turrets had, Judy was going to look like one of the Hunger Game contestants. Coming flying out of the cryopod smelling like catnip and shame, we instantly go on the offensive, thinking that Buffy's Barney would be all cool with having someone eat his ass for a while. I accidentally, however, ask him if he wouldn't mind taking a shower first, and like your average psychopath, we discover that this is a sensitive trigger word. He promptly makes us realize that once in a blue moon even the kink-shamed say enough is enough. To our surprise, he starts wailing on us, and I would be lying if I didn't say I was already planning where I would like to be buried. Him being under the influence of methamphetamines and glue sticks, however, seemed to have me at an advantage. You know, this would have been a lot easier if that headless keyboard warrior Tom from the last episode was here to help, but I guess curing his theoretical insomnia was more important. I suppose Buffy's Barney had a meth-induced seizure and decided that death was a better option, thus resulting in us winning the struggle. Well, with him being gone, it is official, the meth heads were cleared out of the cave, and thus we can officially turn this cave into yet another underfunded, systematically corrupted orphanage. Now for the next 2 minutes, it's basically just Barney the dinosaur cosplaying Dexter the murderer, and instead of being meticulously neat, it's mostly just random chomping, so I advise you to either move on with your wonderful lives, or skip to 9 minutes 40 seconds of thus giving you the final loot results of this wonderful heist. For the most part it was just random resources. The best things we looted were the tames in the cryopods and the health potions, as well as some decent weapons. Hopefully this will open up the doors for some hobo fights later in the future. There was also enough loot to launch the boss fight, which I most likely won't be doing because that takes work and commitment and I'm allergic to both of those things. I genuinely hope you enjoyed the episode and I will see you lunatics in the next one.